Tom's didn't start with the idea for a shoe. In fact, it was the absence of a shoe that started it all.
Argentina was beautiful. The music, the colors, the food, the people. But as soon as I left the city, I noticed this need. I knew nothing about shoes and very little about giving. But I had a simple idea. What if a for-profit shoe company used giving as its business model? One where for every pair of shoes sold, a new pair would be given to a child in need. One for one. They'd be shoes for a better tomorrow. Tomorrow shoes. So I called them Toms.
I remember boxing some of the first Toms at Blake's apartment. We sold 10,000 pairs that first summer, so we gave away 10,000 pairs. 10,000 pairs that protected children from disease and infection, that completed the school uniform, helping increase enrollment.
We gave repeatedly, going back time and time again to the same communities, watching the kids grow up with Toms on their feet. 10,000 became 1 million, 2 million. A spontaneous response to a simple need had evolved into something much bigger than we had expected.
We were learning to give by giving, and we were getting some of it wrong. The criticism made us take a closer look at what we were doing, and this led us to a realization. One for One wasn't a corporate policy, it was a movement. We weren't a shoe company at all, we were a giving company, and this changed everything.
I was hired to grow the giving department. Now we have an entire team of people devoted to learning how to give better, to take feedback we had received, and to do more. We designed new giving products, winter boots for colder climates, sneakers for play in our city streets. We evolved from just providing aid to supporting economic development. We partnered with factories in Kenya, India, Ethiopia, hired artists to hand paint shoes in Haiti, and made a commitment to produce 1/3 of our giving shoes in local markets.
We work with local NGOs to deliver shoes right up to the last mile. But we saw that the communities needed more. They needed wells, prenatal care. There was malnutrition, devastating diseases caused by shoelessness. So we dedicated a percentage of our sales to help and took on podoconiosis as a personal cause, funding clinics devoted to eradicating the disease.
And then we saw another need. We took our learnings from giving shoes and applied them to sight. It was a new way of looking at One for One, not just giving a product, but helping restore sight through surgery, medical treatment, and prescription glasses. It's about pairing one person making a purchase with one person in need. It's about a simple transaction changing a life. This is what One for One is about.
And the future of One for One is about more than giving. It's about changing the way business is done around the world.
Tom's didn't start with the idea for a shoe. In fact, it was the absence of a shoe that started it all.
When you're trying to solve a problem, sometimes the best thing to do is look at it through the eyes of a kid. Well, there's this nice kid, Logan, and he's really into cars. But not because they're fast, big, loud, and shoot flames. In Logan's world, cars were slow. I'm talking Betty White in ankle weights slow.
You know what? For the last half-century, we've built cities around cars. No one even thought about the economic, environmental, and social problems they were going to cause in the future.
So there's this other nice kid, John Z. No, not that kid. Yeah, this little dude. He's a real people person, always trying to bring people together. But he's thinking,
When we're shut off in our cars, we're shut off from each other. We weren't meant to live stuck on highways in zombie mode.
Yeah. What if we could create the next form of transportation? Something that can solve some of the big issues while connecting people on the way.
These kids got to work, researching all types of public transportation. Ferries, buses, trains, all kinds of trains. And while all these inventions held incredible promise, everything was stuck on a fixed route. So they started thinking, how might people create their own network with their own vehicles? The way combis work in Zimbabwe, a network of private cars for everyone that can go anywhere.
Maybe we could put the power of sharing rides directly into people's hands.
Drivers with spare seats should be able to share them, make extra money, get paid on their own terms.
One little tap should get passengers a friendly ride, door to door, and help reduce environmental impact.
And we'll give out giant pink mustaches for the front of every car.
Whoa, cowboy. I think you need to take care of some personal grooming. That's better. So in 2012, these two transportation-obsessed little freaks started Lyft, the very first peer-to-peer ride-sharing community. And right away, people started to join the revolution, sharing music, stories, dad jokes, hair tips, peaceful contemplation. Artists were driving to support their dreams. Students were using the app to get to school and to pay for school. We had sandwich makers and sushi chefs, lawyers and lesbians, astronauts and Democrats and Republicans, walk of shamers. Hey, good for you. A ride for every reason, for everyone. Their idea caught on as far as the eye could see, and cities began to reshape themselves for a new generation. Access to affordable rides made distances smaller. Car ownership became obsolete. Shared vehicles breezed through greener spaces faster than ever before. And honking became strictly reserved for saying hello. You know what? Kids do love cars, and in the not-so-distant future, there's going to be another couple crazy kids connecting in the back of a Lyft, thinking up the next big idea that changes the world. That would be pretty cool.
What's the biggest thing we'll notice about 5G?
So I think the biggest thing is the massive data rates and the low latency. We are going to have a capacity going all the way up to like 5 gigabits per second on day one.
Can you tell me more about latency?
Look at it as like two people talking to each other. You're both taking turns talking, and you can talk, pause and wait for like 5 minutes for acknowledgement, or you can talk, pause and wait for 1 minute. You can imagine the smaller and smaller we make these intervals, we increase communication between two people.
Got it. Latency is gap time, and if there's less gap time, then communication happens faster. Why does that matter?
Think about mission-critical applications like remote robotic surgeries. How quickly you can respond is extremely important, because that could be a life and death scenario. Or autonomous cars. Because if you are detecting a collision and you need to send that to the car behind you, it's extremely important that message gets to that place. There's no point telling you to avoid a collision after the collision has happened.
What's it feel like now that you're starting to see this in the world?
One of the cool things about working on technologies in Qualcomm is you cannot say hello to a stranger without them potentially owning something that you have developed. They say, oh, look what my phone can do, and you feel so good saying, yes, I know exactly why it does that and why it can do that. And I think that's a great feeling.
Thanks, Vinitha.
When we hear tech hub or startup culture, we think of the Bay Area's Silicon Valley. There's a reason for that. It is the world's highest concentration of tech companies and takes home more than half of the US's venture capital funding. But in the last decade, almost 100 Silicon cities have popped up worldwide. These hubs are set to innovate in unexpected ways, thanks to a little thing called leapfrogging. It's the idea that developing nations can quickly adopt new technology. One of the most impressive cases of leapfrogging is happening in Kenya's Silicon Savannah. The first big step was mobile phones. Landline phones were never widespread in Kenya. The infrastructure didn't support it.
Hello?
Younger generations were raised on cell phones, and now most of the country is mobile first. Meanwhile, the US is still phasing out obsolete landline tech. African businesses are now starting in the cloud, leapfrogging physical servers altogether. When VMware teamed up with startup Node Africa to bring cloud systems to Kenya, they saw an opportunity to help build companies cloud first and take advantage of a natively digital user base. In just 2 years, 65 African businesses have used Node as their jumping-off point into the cloud. And they're leaving their mark on the Kenyan tech world. One standout partnership has been with IntelliPro and the EAFF. Together, they've built a cloud-first mobile platform that's improving the financial security of Kenya's farmers. That's a big deal, since agriculture employs almost 3/4 of the continent's workforce. Historically, small, individually owned farms in East Africa haven't been able to qualify for loans or insurance. Now thousands of EAFF farmers are using IntelliPro's program to pool resources, track crop productivity, and secure financial support. Node and IntelliPro's ambitions, all built on VMware's cloud infrastructure, don't stop there.
The intention is not just to, collect data from farmers, but be able to, from an aggregated viewpoint, give them back insights to help improve their productivity.
Kenya's leap into cloud-first innovation isn't just changing long-held ways of life for small farmers. It's giving rise to a major tech scene. With the opportunity for cloud-first innovation, incubation hubs and grassroots programs are popping up across the country, with the goal of solving high-stakes local issues.
People used to just sit in, cafes, type away, never knowing who else is, working on the same problem or where they could get the support from.
Add to that support from the government and investments from local entrepreneurs, and it all starts to look like the ingredients for the next big thing. When digital infrastructure becomes available and leapfrogging takes place, a culture of innovation grows. And in Kenya, a hub that could one day rival Northern California.
Stop. Breathe. Now, think about how you're managing your time. It's been said there are two paradigms to scheduling: the manager and the maker. The manager's day is cut into 30-minute intervals, and they change what they're doing every half hour. The maker's day is different. They need to make, to create, to build. But before that, they need to think. The most effective way for them to use time is in half-day or full-day blocks. We all need to be makers. So let's be smart with our time. Many of our meetings could be shorter or include fewer people, and some don't need to happen at all. Take back those hours for your make time instead. But don't put it off till the end of the day on Friday. Your energy levels run the course of a wave throughout the week, so try to plan accordingly. And always bias your make time toward the morning before you hit a cycle of midday decision fatigue. My new challenge to you: create and protect your make time. And before you wrangle your teammates for meetings, consider whether it'll be disruptive to their make time. I have make time on my calendar. Please don't schedule over it. And I promise to do my best not to schedule over yours.
This is a true story, and like all true stories, it's about a salesman, taxidermy, and heavy drinking. A lot's going on in 1955. In Milwaukee, the National League wins the 22nd All-Star Game. In Jacksonville, riots break out over a singer named Elvis. And in New York City, traveling salesman Abbott Peterson's flight is delayed. Abbott did what anyone would do when their flight was delayed in 1955. Abbott came upon a taxidermy shop, and that's when he met Pete. And while it was Abbott who probably knocked Pete's head off, it was the flight attendant who used his tie to reattach it and suggested,
"He's cute. I bet he'd look good on his shirt."
Next thing you know, Arnold Palmer's wearing it golfing. Earl the Pearl Anthony was wearing it bowling. He was wearing it. These guys were wearing it. Even this guy. Back then, penguin clothing was synonymous with American leisure sports. Today, it's simply an American icon. Where does a good idea come from anyway? From genius, or hard work, or luck? Or maybe from this guy, a stuffed penguin, and a few of these? And while this probably doesn't happen every time, it did that time.
Computers. They've helped us build the world we live in and solve some of our most challenging problems. But we're approaching the border of what we can achieve with the computers we have. We need to explore new ways forward. We believe one of those ways is quantum computing. We've made small but significant steps in the right direction, showing that quantum computers can seriously outperform traditional computers. Now our ambition is to build the world's first truly useful quantum computer. Quantum computers are extraordinary. They harness quantum mechanical properties that occur in nature. Unlike traditional computers, which find solutions one by one, quantum computers can explore multiple solutions simultaneously. This phenomenal leap in computing power could lead to a fundamental shift in how we envision and build our future. A quantum computer could potentially tackle real-world problems in almost every aspect of society. Drug discovery, sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, and even climate science. Transforming our way of life and this planet we call home. Our journey into the quantum frontier is just beginning. The road ahead is long, but we can't wait to see where it leads.
Blue is the world's favorite color. We use it everywhere. In fact, right now, half of all humans are wearing blue jeans. But in the natural world, blue is extremely uncommon. Blue flowers, fruits, and foods are rare. And of the Earth's 64,000 vertebrates, only 2 have blue pigment. The sea isn't blue, nor is the sky. They're actually optical illusions. And if you've ever been captivated by a pair of blue eyes, you've been deceived. In reality, they're pale brown. Blue is so elusive that some ancient languages didn't even have a word for it. Yet strangely, we can see it better than any other colour in the dark. That's why emergency vehicles have blue flashing lights. The landscape appears bluer in the distance and often fades into a hazy cerulean horizon. Because blue doesn't really exist in our world, it only hovers on its edges. So it's pretty ironic that we all live on a blue planet.
Your privacy is important to you and to us. So we want to be transparent about your data, why we collect it, and how you can manage it. Your personal data includes information about you, such as your name, address, and email. It also includes information such as your IP address and your cookies. A cookie is a small file that can be placed on your computer, phone, or similar device. It means that organisations such as theGuardian can recognise and remember you. We use your personal data for lots of reasons. For example, we use it to make our site run better and to carry out marketing when you allow us. We need it to provide the products and services you've signed up for, such as subscriptions, emails, and notifications. And we also use cookies to display advertising in lots of ways, including ads that have been tailored to you. So, if you've been reading a lot of food and drink articles, for example, you might see more ads about food and drink. You can manage the way that we use your data at any point, and you can control which topics we contact you about, from our journalism and events to holidays and jobs. You can change your marketing preferences at any time, including email, phone, text, or post. Just sign in and go to the Emails and Marketing tab in your account area. And you can find details of how to manage your cookies and advertising in our cookies policy. We take your data rights seriously, and we've explained them further on our privacy site. We've also included more information there about our activities and obligations, so that you have clarity about your data.
Dear Florida, when I was a boy, you were paradise. Endless beaches, crystal clear waters, the scent of orange blossoms in the air. You gave us all the fish we could eat, all the clean water we could drink, as we watched it meander south from Lake Okeechobee to the Everglades. We didn't understand your ebbs and flows, how the two come together to maintain life. The water needed to flow south to where the river of grass could thrive from it while purifying it, south to where the aquifers could drink from it, south to where it belonged. When I was a boy, you had a plan. But in our ignorance, we made our own. We built ditches and concrete canals to bleed the water out of you to the east and west. Drunk on progress, we dried up your precious river of grass and laid a patchwork quilt of sugar plantations at your Great Lakes feet, slowly soaking your soil with fertilizers and pesticides. Our poisons let invasive species thrive that had no business doing so, and so we tried different poisons. We watched as our septic fields leached sewage into your waters, feeding toxic algae blooms. Watched as fish died by the thousands. We made freshwater salty and saltwater fresh, with dire consequences. The water needs to flow south, so we're here to tell you that we're ready to change, that we have to change. We must return the flow of the water, reclaiming the lands south of Lake Okeechobee to restore the river of grass. We must find alternatives to poison. We must update our infrastructure to keep sewage from your precious waters. Because our future depends on you, and your future depends on us, if we lose you now, it will be simply because we allowed it to happen.